Thanks for joining us on the John Mendola Show. We are driven by McCarthy Tire and Automotive Centers. Let's talk with Yogi Roth, of course, a homegrown guy here in Northeastern Pennsylvania via Lackawanna Trail, University of Pittsburgh, USC, you name it. He's been everywhere and continues to do great things on the air and all over the world. Yogi, welcome into the show.
Hey, thanks, man. I love coming on, man. I still have these great memories of waking up and watching you, aspiring to be on your show when I was, in elementary school, and then meeting you when I was in high school. So anytime to catch up is a blast, man.
Well, you're ready to go for this season, and let's talk a little bit about some of the things you're going to be doing this year. Again, Pac-12 stuff?
Yeah, back with the Pac-12 network, and we start calling games in 2 weeks. I'm heading to Oregon week 1, can't wait. UCLA week 2, and here we go. So, yeah, I spent the last couple of weeks bouncing around training camp to training camp, seeing different teams and trying to evaluate them and, meet different players and personnel and stuff like that. And got home, got to do my last one on Friday, and here we are with, the season less than 2 weeks away now.
How much goes into, this traveling around and seeing teams? How long you get to spend at a campus to kind of get a feel for a team and evaluate them?
Yeah, great question, man. For me, it's always a process that starts in the spring. So I usually get there in spring and, for their spring game and probably get one practice in. And then in the summer, I go and do a deep dive on their previous season. So every, usually like May and early June, I go back on each team and watch a couple games and kind of write up a prospectus. And that's kind of what drives my analysis heading into the season. And that'll help me out for like media days and then when I get on campus. Because then when you're there for training camp, you're really just there for one practice and maybe a quarterback meeting, an offensive meeting. You don't get a ton in there. So for me, I want to always have a point of view of, okay, this is what I would expect from the team, and this is what I want to go watch. Because the practice flies by, and sometimes you can't evaluate every position group. So I try to have a plan going in. And so, for instance, at UCLA, it was all about can their offense adjust to now becoming more pro style. So I spent a ton of time with their offensive line and the tight ends and their wideouts, just the shifts and motions and the timing and the audibles and re-identifying linebackers when different blitzes are happening, just to see if they could handle it. And they were awesome. So I went from, my analysis went from them being second in the Pac-12 South to being the top team I think that's going to come out of the South this year. So, for me it's a process because you don't get a full week, unfortunately, and, you kind of base an opinion off of a small sample size. So you never want to be too dramatic. But, I always kind of nerd out and try to have a plan going in.
These different personalities, the different coaches you get to meet, and I'm sure you grow a little closer with some than others, and it depends on who they are, who you are, but what's it like to kind of get to know them on a different level?
It's great. I've always been drawn to coaches, even when I played. Like, I think back on it now, and, I was drawn to Jerry Wasilchek, and, I was drawn to, that whole family. And when I played at Pitt, I was drawn to the staff. Same now, and I think it helps having coached, even though, it's been a while since I've been on a staff, but just kind of knowing the ins and outs of a program, how to build it, being around Coach Carroll and the incredible job he did, and, kind of molded, not myself and obviously John Glenn of how to build a program and make it successful. So a lot of times I get to meet these coaches. Number one, I'm trying to just learn stuff, from a leadership standpoint, from a team building standpoint, schematically. And a lot of times they're asked questions about Pete and kind of how he did it. So it's probably one of my favorite things. I love talking to the student athletes, but I love learning the different philosophies, different approaches. And each program out here, just like anywhere, it's so different, whether it's the fan base, whether it's the talent pool that's around them, whether it's the style of play, whether it's the season they're coming off and what they're trying to build and either sustain, maintain, or grow. Yeah, man, it's honestly one of my favorite parts. And the coaches out here are awesome. I mean, I see these other conferences, and obviously I've spent a ton of time in the SEC, but I worked in the Big 12 for 3 years, calling games for Fox. And the coaches out here on the West Coast, they're just so approachable. And I think they are pretty much everywhere once you get to know them. But there's a lot of layers in a lot of other places, whether it's security or personnel. And, out here, coaches are really open. So, I really enjoy getting to know these guys.
working hard all summer. Let's talk about what you're doing in the summer. Again, putting out a pretty darn good product again.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I've been around the Elite 11 quarterback competition, and those that aren't aware of it, think of like American Idol for high school quarterbacks. And, the staff at Student Sports, at the company that puts it all together, along with Nike, they go around the country to 14 different stops and have these free tryouts for all position groups, including quarterbacks. I can remember, I went to it its second year when I was going into my senior year. So I've been around this organization for a long time. And for the last 8 years, I've been able to coach and host the Elite 11 show. And for the last 2, they've let a production company direct it. So I partner with a buddy of mine named Tyler Adams, and we go to work on it. And this year was really cool because I wanted to take a lot of chances and swings, and I try to do that in life anyway. And the theme was the it factor, and kind of like you hear it all the time that use that it factor, that thing, and it's so undefinable, it's so overused that I was like, let's explore it. Here we are with these quarterbacks, and they all have this supposed it factor. What does it even mean? And so we called the film "Welcome to the It Factory," and we partnered with Bleacher Report and released an 8-part series, and I think got almost like 11 million views. I mean, it picked up some steam. So for me, it was really cool because could have fallen flat on our faces and the theme not really worked, but it did. And these kids are awesome. I've really fallen in love with the quarterback position, and you get to be around these guys. You're kind of around like the future CEOs of the world. So these guys that really can influence their teammates. If they're ballers, they can impact society, and if they go play in the league, they can impact the planet. If they become Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, etc. So to be around them before they kind of get latched onto when they're in college and then obviously professionals is really cool because you build a unique relationship, and they're still the same 16-year-old kids that John that when you met up, they're the same guy. The difference is that the internet exists now, and people all over the United States know them and love them, and they've got 20,000 social media followers, and that's altered, but they're still the same kids that have the same questions and desires and curiosities and fears, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do, to stay connected to the position, stay connected to coaching, but most importantly, stay connected to that next generation of influencer.
Yogi Roth here on the John Mendola Show, as we talk a little football and all the things in life, and traveling has been good to you, but now that'll change a little bit with football season, as you say, all the way to February. Any new projects coming up for Yogi Roth?
Well, I'm always trying to hit the road, man. I had a great one this off season. Went to Cuba and dove into photography, and I've always, I don't know if I could have stated it, but I look back to my life, and I've always loved like the idea of storytelling. So whether it was writing as a kid, whether it's you're playing and you're telling a story through your play in a basketball game, or obviously calling games, and I said, man, I talk all the time. Let me just shut my mouth and see what it's like to tell a story without any words. And so I got into photography. So I went to Cuba right after the season, and it was awesome. And then I kept cruising this summer. I went to Croatia and explored a lot of Europe, and I just fell in love with that craft. So, regarding projects, I just started kind of putting out some cool photos, and it just for fun. I'm just kind of enjoying it. That's been fun. And then, I've got a new film that I'm working on that probably won't come out for about a year and a half, but it's called The Cape. We're almost done with it now. It's about sailing around the world, and I did it with a bunch of people, and I sailed 2 years ago around South America, and it's 5 people who never knew each other, and they go around and sail the most dangerous sea in the world, supposedly, and we all talk about every fear that we have in life. And it was a really cool experience for me because it was based on a true story that's kind of been passed down throughout my family that I kind of chased down about this guy who sailed around, what's called Cape Horn, back when he was 25, 26 years old in the late 1800s. And I've been told this story for decades now, and he's got a journal that I would always read as a kid, so I kind of wanted to chase it. So that'll be the next film I do. But honestly, for this season, last year we did Life on a Walk, which I appreciate your support on that documentary. That is actually it's playing in Australia and New Zealand now. We just will announce on Monday that we just started DVD sales. So that's kind of took on its life of its own. So I'm actually really excited this year, John, to just do football, and I'm just going to charge and go after being the best college football analyst that I can.
Well, he does it all. Life in a Walk, Life Without Limits, you name it. Yogi Roth, living his life to the fullest, been all over the world, and continued success your way. You're, Yogi, always great talking with you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate having me on. It really gets me fired up when I get that text message from you and we get to catch up. I know it's not for that long, but I have these flashbacks of like Lackawanna Trail and Saturday or Sunday mornings watching your show, and yeah, it was an awesome time in life. So anytime, it's an honor for me to hop on, brother.
All right, my man. Yogi Roth, thank you so much for joining us here on the John Mendola Show. We are driven by McCarthy Tire and Automotive Centers.